Hey, what's up? It's John Samuel, and this is All Access Live. And today we have a very special guest. We have my dear friend, Alan Hejl, who is the founder of Spark Access. What's up, Alan?
Yeah, thanks for having me, John. I remember when you suggested jumping on, and I'm really excited you invited me here. Today is the launch of my business, Spark Access, and it's
Woohoo!
been a while in the making.
Oh, it's so exciting to have you on and to kind of announce this and really kind of, get the word out there. So I'm really excited to have you because you and I have been friends now for a few years now. And we actually met on through LinkedIn, right? And I
Yeah.
think and I think it was, I forget what it was. It was a post I had done and that you liked it, and you had a title of autonomous vehicles on your in your profile or something. And our friend, mutual friend Victoria Niji had asked me to, join her on a guest lecture at Duke University on autonomous vehicles, and I had no idea what I was going to talk about. And I saw that you had a background, so I just randomly uh, cold emailed you, right? And
Yeah.
you took the email and you took a call with me, and I'm so thankful for that. So,
Yeah.
can you share a little bit about what is Spark Access, and then we'll go into kind of your background in the automotive industry?
Yeah, thanks, John. And yeah, the power of connection is pretty amazing. And that's part of the mission I'm taking on with Spark Access is so often in the mobility industry. So mobility is anything that's autonomous vehicles, electric vehicle charging infrastructure, anywhere where transportation is
Yeah.
interacting within a community or ecosystem. That's mobility. And if you ask people who go far back enough, um, prior to 2010, mobility almost exclusively referred to paratransit and
Yeah.
accessible transportation. And so it's through my experience in automotive, uh, I really saw an opportunity that there needs to be a better linkage between the disability community and all of these efforts that have such an opportunity to provide better mobility and transportation for people with disabilities. Um, but rarely are there people with disabilities in the room. And so it's fostering kind of those spark moments, if you
Yes.
will,
Yeah.
uh, that provides kind of that light bulb above folks' heads, and they see the importance of it, and they start to understand uh, why they need to include people with disabilities, why they need to have experiences where they learn how to talk to the community, engage with the community, learn what the real pain points are, and invest accordingly.
No, I love it. Because I mean, the mobility challenges and accessibility barriers around mobility, it's what really drove me to leave the US and leave to go to India, and coming back. And it's interesting because people don't think about people and disabilities and the automotive industry, right? I Somebody said, "Oh, people who are blind don't drive." Yeah, but I'm in there. People I care about in my community are driving, and so it's really good that we do include people with disabilities at the table, because um, it's not only just one type of person who's you know who's impacted by
Yeah.
this. So
And it's not only kind of the right thing to do through that empathy, but there's a business case behind it, and I know you're you're well versed in it, but it's
yes,
26% of the U.S. population globally, more than 1.4 billion people in the world. So it's I think I love the phrase, like it rivals the market in China when you think of the investment opportunity for people with disabilities. And it's literally every community that we have has a need for accessible transportation. So it's a big opportunity if we can start really understanding it.
yeah, for sure. And kind of what was the thing that got you into this space? Like, what was that
Yeah.
that spark moment for you?
Yeah. I mean, it comes from, I'd say my first spark was really when I met my wife. So she is paralyzed and a manual wheelchair user, and we travel the world together. And uh, with an open heart and open mind, uh, I just had no idea how many barriers she truly faced until I am right there alongside her for years and years and instances and instances. Um, and I think that lit my spark, and it led to me getting involved with employee resource groups at my companies. It led to me volunteering my time outside of work to do what I could in my community, where I'm also the chairperson of our Ferndale Accessibility and Inclusion Advisory Commission.
Nice.
That we just are a group of passionate folks who
Mhm.
volunteer to help make our city more accessible. Um, but it also it's really bringing those kind of spark moments to others is also my spark. So explaining to somebody and questioning assumptions. And what really led me on this professional journey was my unconventional background is I'm a network engineer.
Mhm.
And my background is in connectivity, and I worked in automotive connectivity, and that led to autonomous vehicle connectivity. And hearing how autonomous vehicles were going to interact and create such an opportunity for customers, uh, I'd be the one who raised their hand and say, hey, how are people like my wife going to interact with this? Or how are folks like my friend who's deaf going to know this notification is going off if it's only audible? And so on and so forth. And I think it really, once you start asking enough questions, people start coming to you for answers instead, because you clearly might know more than others. And sharing that experience and knowledge, and then giving people kind of the paths to find that knowledge for themselves in the future. That's really what lights my fire and kind of sparks my world. So that's a big mission, I think, behind Spark Access, is not only helping where I can to drive equity, but helping build something that lasts by changing the way other people think.
No, I love that. I love that. So shout out to Emily for getting this this
Yeah,
network engineer into
yeah.
really kind of uh, making a huge impact on more than just one person, but on a whole community that really needs it. So thank you, Emily, for that. We're very excited about that. You know, I mean, I have lots of questions, but one of the things that in your daily life, you talk about the challenges. I know we were just talking about. I think Emily recently got an electric vehicle, right? This past year. What does
Yeah.
she have?
Yeah, she's had it a little more than a year now.
Yeah,
She works for Ford Motor Company. She helped design some of the climate control for the Mustang Mach-E.
very
And
cool.
it's an amazing electric vehicle, especially for highway driving. This isn't an ad, but the Blue Cruise feature that it handles a lot of kind of that semi-autonomous driving. It relieves a lot of strain for using hand controls in the vehicle for long amounts of time, and it's really just increased physical well-being of not having to have kind of an ergonomic position.
Hmm.
But then to kind of pair with that is the independence of charging infrastructure, and
Yeah,
it's something I think we're learning more every day as we do road trips that are either short, or we realize we maybe forgot to plug the car in at home the
yeah.
night before and have to charge out in the wild. But something we've been doing a lot this summer is enjoying northern Michigan. So
Nice.
like 3-4 hours north of Detroit. You start to hit like our wine country, you hit like amazing beaches, and a lot of it are rural communities.
Yeah.
That's part of where I grew up in my time. Little Benzie County was a county with one stoplight in the entire county.
Yeah.
Um, and so EV charging infrastructure is it's something that's a brand new concept for those kind of communities. Some who haven't seen infrastructure investment in a very long time.
Hmm.
And I think what we see is just a big opportunity to do better.
Yeah. What are the things that you think that we could do, like in terms of the charging infrastructure? Because I think that's going to be a big piece, right? We're talking about the vehicles, and it seems like automakers are getting a handle on that. But I really do think that infrastructure is like, what were some of the challenges that y'all saw, or did you see any challenges when y'all were, out there? What were some of those things, and what could be
Yeah.
done?
Yeah. So with my wife being a wheelchair user, a lot of it is kind of drawing on existing standards covered in building code and ADA, but it's things like the grids around an EV charging space,
Mm-hmm.
where she needs adequate space to open her door, get out, maneuver to the charging unit, plug it in, and then be able to leave her car and come back and hope nobody has parked her in if there is no grid. But then it's a big thing to consider the interface of the charging unit. So more and more often, uh, payment and whatnot is handled through an app. So
Mm-hmm.
for some chargers, all you have to do is plug it in. Your car's smart enough to say like, okay, let's go. And if you've got the right app and have it downloaded correctly, everything can be done through there. But with such a diverse ecosystem, you essentially have to have like a different app, and it's a different experience for every brand of charger out there.
Yeah.
So it's a diverse range of experiences, and not all are that easy to use. Also, I think the biggest barrier is just like reach height to the charger handle.
Yeah.
So being able to move it from the charger station to your charger port. Ports are different on every vehicle.
Yeah.
The cord weight management is different in every charger. Um, there are a lot of variables that go into it, and I think the lowest hanging fruit that I've started to preach more is just figuring out like a route for customer feedback, and then take action on that. And that right now is something that is discussed a bit in the industry, but probably needs more support of making sure that where there are accessibility issues, that there's a voice for those customers in the process of this new and emerging infrastructure.
Yeah. There are so many variables out there, and we talk about it feels like it's the wild, wild west right now in this space. And I'm glad you're out there and you started Spark Access, because we need to start shifting accessibility left, right? Before we go down too far and it becomes difficult to change the, whatever existing infrastructure, because I know there's a lot more we need to build out. But the
Yeah.
sooner we can start to think about accessibility and universal design for that, it's going to make a huge impact. And do you think, like, is there a reception there? You think, how can we get people to start to think that way, to shift left and think about accessibility and think that what may have been the traditional user is going to be a lot different with the types of new vehicles that we have out there?
Yeah, great point. And I think it's definitely a systems approach, and like many things in accessibility, it is meeting kind of grassroots initiatives, meeting kind of goals of companies that are looking for the business case,
Yeah.
but also support from the government in helping establish kind of a path to standards. And it's I think it was July of 2022, the U.S. Access Board released a technical guidance for EV charging stations. And while it's not quite law yet, that's expected to come with a notice of proposed rulemaking. The standard does a great job of pulling from existing building code standards that give you a reference. So an EV charging station is not dissimilar from an accessible parking spot. It's not dissimilar from a parking kiosk. It's not dissimilar from how like a payment interface is handled as like an ATM.
Mm-hmm.
So when you start to think of kind of the analogs, there's very little that's actually new in EV charging infrastructure. other than it's fully unattended. So I think what
Yeah.
happens often is, for folks who are new in this space, there's a lot of folks equating EV chargers with gas stations,
Yeah.
and it's a whole
It's a whole
own
different
like lecture.
experience.
Well, it's its own lecture in itself. But long story short, fuel charge or fuel stations are kind of exempt from the standard uh, laws of the ADA that apply to building code and apply to services,
Hmm.
um, due to an assumption that there's an attendant there.
Yeah.
So if you ever are at a fuel station, now anyone listening to this will never unsee it, but there's always a sticker that talks about ADA assistance and whatnot. Um, I've talked to several people, and in the age of understaffing fuel stations sometimes and whatnot, if there's one person at a fuel station, they can't leave the counter on the inside unattended. And so I've heard of people with disabilities who are waiting in their car for 45 minutes until an attendant can come and help them.
Oh my gosh.
They have to rely on strangers who are next to them to get out and help. Um, there's so many stories out there, but
Yeah. I
uh,
mean,
as with EV charging, this is a new service that people with disabilities have a right to use independently, and so I think that's a mission that should be true for all customers in this new ecosystem, and to tie it to kind of the business case, a lot of buyers of new electric vehicles are an older population. So it's largely the baby boomer generation, and a lot of folks who are new to this level of technology. Maybe there's a higher rate of disability the older you get, as we
yeah.
know. And so designing around accessibility through the lens of aging as well means you're future proofing your customers for life.
Yes.
And I think that's a philosophy that a lot of folks can get behind when they can see themselves in this future that they're building.
Yeah. I mean, I had no idea about the sticker. I had no idea about the experience, and I'm glad, and I love the fact that future proofing your customers, as they age. And I mean, I'm so glad that you're out there to help spread the word, educate us, and educate folks in the industry, because we need people like you. We need to be sharing these stories. So thank you for doing that. And so, as we start to think about the future of Spark Access, what are your hopes for this? What do you believe the impact that you want to leave with this organization?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is where there's this opportunity for inclusive innovation, whether it's autonomous vehicles, electric vehicles, some other new mobility pilot. I've done things with sidewalk robots and meeting accessibility standards for sidewalks as well.
Yeah.
I think it's also really finding new routes for employment of people with disabilities in this space. And that's accessibility is a vital skill. It's 26% of the population. So all of these new services have to be accessible in some
Yeah.
way. And I think all too often, people assume that they can do it as like part of someone's existing job, or can launch their MVP, but maybe not incorporate accessibility until further down the road. And often the further down the road maybe doesn't happen, or uh, so many things can detract from that. But really, when people start to think of this is a new industry, so many new modes to change and impact the world, inclusion and accessibility is a skill that any business needs. And so having a path where those skills are celebrated,
Yeah.
and the people who have the most skills in this space are people with disabilities, who are the natural innovators, the natural problem solvers, the natural systems thinkers, who know how they move through the world and can help others move through the world in different ways. And so that's really the mission of Spark Access. Is if anyone ever talks to me and doesn't leave thinking I can do inclusive innovation and I need people with disabilities to do it, I think we're going to have another talk.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Inclusive innovation, and that's what Spark Access is. So I appreciate, I'm just so thankful and grateful to have you as my friend, but I'm so excited. And I know that our community is going to be thankful for you to be out there to make actual change and drive that inclusive innovation and break down those mobility barriers that have hindered many of us for so many years. And
Yeah.
I'm so excited, man.
Yeah, thanks, John. And it's a lot of it's thanks to your mentorship as well of helping me get this far. And I think to speak on breaking down barriers, let me just describe my logo real quick.
Yeah, let's do it.
I love the story behind it of when I sat down with people of our graphic design firm that works with disabled artists, is run by disabled artists, and are behind just like a lot of great design. They heard my mission, and they took it on themselves to kind of map out what fit that vision. And they pulled a picture of people with disabilities in wheelchairs taking sledgehammers to curbs. The Berkeley curb cut movement, and that's what inspires my logo. Depicts a wheelchair user with a sledgehammer that's kind of up against the wall. There's that lightning bolt spark kind of coming from it. So it's in addition to sparking innovation, it's about acknowledging and removing those barriers along the way.
I love it. I love it. How cool is that? And thank you for sharing that. Thank you for bringing this to the world. And Alan, how can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, I think right now the best way between LinkedIn, AlanHejl. It's a very unique last name, so I'm pretty easy to find there. But I'm also Alan at sparkaccess.io, and I'd love to connect there as well. And stay tuned in coming weeks for more. If you're going to be at M-Enabling Summit next week, I believe that's October 10th through the 12th, I'll be there as well. So I'd love to connect and grab a coffee if anyone wants to connect there.
Awesome. Alan, so excited for you. Thank you so much for just everything. And again, I'm glad LinkedIn brought us together. We're able to share your story now through LinkedIn, and I can't wait. So thank you. And thank you, Emily, for sparking Alan's interest in this. And so shout out to Emily. But thanks again, Alan.
Thanks, John.
And again, thank you, Annie, for all you do in the back end. And thank you all for joining us. And we will be back. This is National Disability Employment Awareness Month. So go out, celebrate, find an event, do something, raise awareness, and we're going to have a great month ahead. So thank you all.